So, you want to be a contractor. Ever wonder what it takes to become a contractor? The journey they go on to get where they are now, or the crazy things they see and hear on the job site? Well, you're in the right spot. Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor, the podcast. Join your host, Mike Fisher, as he talks to owners of construction companies from all over about how they got started, how they run their business, and some of the craziest stories they've experienced on their job sites. And now, your host, Mike Fisher.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Contractor. This is episode number 3 here today. My guest is Sunny Pinhero, CEO of Pinhero Construction. How you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me on, man.
Awesome. No, thanks for joining me here. Appreciate it.
Congrats on the new podcast and new job and all the stuff you got going on, brother.
Yeah, all the changes, right? Yeah, no, it was the change in job was nice, and it's awesome for my clients. They've loved it. But the change in podcast was unexpected. Had a little hiccup there from an ownership standpoint, but nonetheless, we're back and we're here.
Well, episode 3, man. Let's get it rolling.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. So give us your history. I want to know your story. How did you get into this industry? How did you get to where you are today?
Oh man, it's a long story. But my parents were in the industry, right? So my dad was a drywall framing contractor when I was growing up as a kid. My mom did drafting and permitting for a couple different pool companies here in San Diego. All while growing up, they didn't want their kids to get into the same industry as them. They try to push us off to college, things like that. And I started going that route, worked at a grocery store for, high school, things like that. And then I went to college, wanted to go into engineering. And then I realized I didn't like physics and chemistry. And then I did architecture and, realized I didn't like math. And so ended up doing construction management. And then when I finished that, I said, Dad, can I just come to work for you? So that's how I got into construction, man. It's been pretty much all my life, from.
Which is kind of ironic because you kind of need a little bit of math and physics and all those kind of things.
Yeah, but you can cheat. You can use a tape measure. Yeah. You'd be amazed how these tradesmen, they don't realize, how hard it is to figure out some of the dimensions that they do using the tools that they have, angles,
right.
And, some crazy cuts and, how to utilize the tape measure and, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Find a way to make it work, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So is Pinhero Construction, is it your dad's company or did you start something new or how did the,
No, my parents owned a company called Northwest Commercial Construction up in Seattle.
Okay.
When I was in high school and college, and I quit college, went to work for them, and helped them build that up. But it's unfortunately they didn't get along too well, having to work in the high stress environment of a contracting company. And my mom did the books, my dad did the field. And one thing that I was able to do is I was always able to bridge the gap. So I was good at the office work, the computers, estimating, and then I was also good at the field, right? So when they got a divorce when I was about 25, neither of them sort of had a path forward with a company. And so I ended up going out on my own. My mom actually asked me to work for her, and I asked her for $1 raise at the time. And she said no, so that was the determining factor for me going out.
She's definitely running the books there, right?
Yeah, guys just think it's easy, starting a contracting company and get rolling on it, right?
Yeah. So what year did you start? How long have you guys been in business now?
So Pinhero Construction's officially been in business since 2015. I had my first company when I was 25 through about 2009 to 2010 for about 3 years there. I was really young, didn't have my group of mentors or, consultants to help me out at that point in time. I was just kind of, running blind as a young kid, building their company, spending money as fast as I could and, getting as many projects as I could. And then, it all went away really quickly.
Figuring out a way to pay a bill when it came in.
Yeah. 2009, 2010, the downturn. So that hit me just as hard as, anyone else. So I effectively had to start over at that point in time. But then I went and consulted, did some sales, helped with some HVAC and solar company for a while. And then finally I was just like, I just need to try it one more time. And so part of being in construction, I was always successful at doing the sales, helping build the businesses. But while I worked other places, there was always something holding us back. The business owner wouldn't let me help hire the superintendents, but I'd help go get all the work for them. Right. And so there was just always something that held us back. And so I decided that, to realize what I want to accomplish, I have to be the one that is the last person to make the decision, because I'm willing to take that risk. Right.
Right.
So that was sort of, why I decided to go back out on my own in 2015. Was there are things that we can do and a team I can build, and the things that I want to be able to accomplish as a company, I had to be able to have no one in front of me to make, or to hold us back, if that makes sense.
Right.
And there's a lot of business owners that hold themselves back, not necessarily because they're not capable, it's just because they're not willing to take the risk, or, hire someone smarter than them, or.
Well, and uncomfortability too, right? A lot of it comes from just being comfortable where you're at and what you're doing. And part of it's risk, but also, there's a level of uncomfort that comes with change, and especially if it's new change, right? Something that nobody else has done before, that maybe, is a new idea out there. So having done it twice. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. So being uncomfortable, like everyone, our nature is to try to be more comfortable, right? But that's not where growth happens. Growth only happens in being uncomfortable and doing the work. And so it's certainly challenging after 6 years of what we've been doing now, because we were on the Inc. 5000 list. Every year we've been growing. Every year our project sizes get bigger and bigger. And so it's a constant state of like, not knowing, what's next, necessarily how to do this. But once you've done it once, you're now an expert at it. That's one thing that's nice, is once you've done this type of project, you know more than anyone else who hasn't done that project now that you've completed it. Right. And so that's kind of,
well, and you're almost raising that floor every time you do it. Right. So if you take that leap and you get to an uncomfortable place doing a job maybe you haven't done before, a little bigger, a little bit more complex scope, whatever it is, that becomes your floor now, right? And now and instead of being comfortable at that level, it's okay, what's next, right? And that's the mentality that it takes.
Absolutely. Someone starting out is going to be doing, whatever they were familiar with, but then if they say yes to something, it's scary, and sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes you'll do a bad job at that, but you'll learn, right? Like, but
you still learn. Yeah. Even doing a bad job, you learn. Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. So having done it twice now, what are some things that you did the second time around that really kind of led to, being a little bit more successful and being able to sustain?
Well, Are
there a couple of things?
Yeah. So, I've thought about it recently, because a lot of people have been asking me, it's really understanding leverage, strategically. So when I was, 25, 26, when I started my first company, I went from making $20 an hour to making 100 plus, being a business owner, because we had, went out and built, some business, and you can make a lot more money being the business owner. The problem is I would then spend it, right? So I had the lifted truck, the big tires, the nicer house. But that didn't give me any leverage to then grow. And so, the other thing I didn't have at that time was I didn't have my mentors. I didn't have my advisory staff. I didn't have consultants, right? I was just kind of just winging it the best I could and riding the market, right? So 2015 rolled around, and the first thing I did was, got my CPA in line. So I've had my CPA on retainer since the day I started. My attorney, my insurance broker, my banker, these are all people, your financial advisor. These are all people that are paid consultants, basically, and then I also went out and got a mentor. And so that was someone in the industry that I can ask questions to, learn from. And so I don't make those mistakes, or I'm not necessarily going through these by myself. And so building the relationship with those 5 or 6 people, or having them in your corner, allows you to make smarter decisions, allows you to ask questions, allows you to do things right, have the right, contracts in place so you can get paid, make sure that you're paying your taxes so you don't get, hit up by the IRS,
Right.
After the fact. And then the other side of leverage is I didn't pay myself. So, I mean, I paid myself a small salary, right? But I didn't pay myself more just because I now was the owner of a company. I was a shareholder of a company and I was an employee within the company, and that's how I treated it. So I paid myself 65 grand a year for 5 years, the first 5 of Pinhero, because every time we grew or were able to build up enough capital to reinvest it, I would hire an employee. So to be able to hire people, you have to have the capital to be able to do that. For you to be able to take on a new project or a bigger project, you have to have the capital to do that. So if I was spending it all on toys and a fifth wheel and going to the desert, things that I'm kind of doing now a little bit more, then I wouldn't have been able to multiply the people who are actually producing for the company. Right. And so within a short amount of time, I had my key accounting person in place. I had my key project coordinators in place, my key estimator in place, my superintendents in place. So I had a whole team that was pretty much making the same amount as me, if not more. But what that did was that provided leverage so that we can actually go out and accomplish more work. And, the more people you have producing within your company, the more money, the more scalable, the more sustainable that you're going to be. If it's just you and a couple guys, you're just going to be going in waves based on where you put your effort.
You're capped. Yeah. And I love what you said there too. When you said that the mentality was that you were an employee and a shareholder of a company, right? Because as an employee, or even, when you're paying yourself, there's only so much you can pay yourself, right? Especially when the work is limited because you don't have a team to go out there and get more business and do bigger projects. But as a shareholder, your mentality is that you want that, or your incentive is for the company to grow, right? So whether you work for the company or not, if you own shares in the company, you want that company to grow. So if that's the mentality that you take as an owner, is that you're just an employee and a shareholder, then ultimately the real incentive is to grow. And that's where the real wealth and freedom comes from, is, having ownership in that company that's growing. And I think that's a mentality that, like you said, a lot of guys are missing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so, and what that means, like, just in layman's terms, is that if I was a carpenter, I paid myself as a carpenter. If I was the foreman, I paid myself as a foreman. If I was the sales guy, I paid myself as a sales guy. I didn't go pay myself more. I paid myself what it would cost to replace me if I hired an employee for that position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, then it's easy to know what that cost is.
Right.
And you've already been paying that cost too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, just as any business owner, there's obviously perks, vehicles paid for, phones and gas and all sorts of stuff.
But, all those things.
But generally, I think the smartest thing I did was I leveraged building the company first, then taking from the company. And I have subcontractors now. I have, even employees within my own company that we're trying to coach up to, get out of that rut. Because once you're in that rut of, hey, I got so many bills, I have to keep doing what I'm doing, you don't have any leverage to make better decisions to move yourself forward. And so I think that was a key change, having a team that I can depend on for, any sort of questions I had as a business. Of course, it costs me money to hire, my CPA, my attorney, but it's all scalable. You start small and you work your way up. My attorney now is a much bigger and more high profile attorney than the one I had when I first started.
Right.
But at least I had an attorney I can turn to help make sure I was protected to get paid and, those sort of things. So,
well, and I like what you said too, when you said about going out to find those people, right? I mean, I see it so often from the insurance side, especially in the construction space, where the mentality is, as a contractor, I have to bid for my work. Therefore, people that work for me should have to bid for my work also, or what I mean, for me to be their customer, they should have to bid against me too. And the mentality is while I understand where they're coming from, and I think it's hard to fight that mentality, there's also an aspect of, like you said, advisors, trusted advisors, and key people in your in your corner that you can turn to and trust. So rather than, you know, hey, who's the cheapest attorney I can go find? Like, let me interview 6 attorneys and have them, you know, give me bids for whoever's going to do, you know, give me the cheapest retainer and give me the most work, or same for a CPA, or even obviously the insurance too, right? I mean, shopping insurance is habit for most people, but if you find that person that you trust, and I'm not out here saying that I'm overcharging all my clients, but at the end of the day, like, they trust me to do my job and they trust me to answer those questions that they need. And at the end of the day, they know that I'm getting the best possible pricing for them. If they can trust all those things, then it really shouldn't matter if they can save 3, 5, 7% somewhere else, right?
Because there's a couple things to that, right? So, you know, one is that you always get what you pay for. So if you pay cheap, you're going to get cheap no matter what. You can overpay for something, don't get me wrong, but you always get what you pay for. So if you want something that's, if you want to, you know, invest and have something of somewhat of quality service, it's going to cost you some money to do, right? If you're marketing for $100 a month, you know, to some place that's going to put up a website for that amount, you're going to get a really crappy website. You know, if you're going to go pay, you know, an employee $15 an hour, you're not going to get a great employee at that rate, right? You're going to need to spend a little bit more money to get someone to do something, to actually take something off your plate. And that's the idea, right? Is leverage. So, you know, having someone like, you know, like your team, it's an investment. And us as contractors, traditionally you think of things like as a cost, right? Like, my attorney costs money, my insurance guy costs me, my insurance costs me money. No, my insurance actually saves me money, right? So what if I had an employee get in a wreck? I, you know, now have it covered. They're going to take care of the legal fees, take care of the car, those sort of things, right? They're protecting my assets as I grow a business. I have something to protect. And so I need that insurance to cover that, right? And so, you know, having someone like you on your contractor's team, they should think about that as an investment. That's like, hey, Mike, you know, we're growing. I have this need now, right? Like, hey, we just bought some extra equipment. What do I need to make sure that I have this covered in case it gets stolen? Right. Yeah. You know, I have, you know, horror stories of people getting stuff stolen out of, you know, Home Depot parking lots, out of their trucks, or Cadillac converters going missing out of the driveways, you know, just all sorts of things that, you know, do you have inland marine coverage to cover that? Right. You know, another thing that, you know, as I've grown my company, I've always relied on my insurance agent to say, hey, listen, I'm building the company. What do I need to cover now? You know, what do I need to do now that I have these sort of risks? You know, something
forward thinking, and
something that we just added was cybersecurity. It wasn't very expensive, but it definitely helped. And no one else was pitching me on that, right? It was definitely something that, you know, we thought it was worth adding now that we're at the size of company we are. So,
yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, I mean, obviously I love the mentality, and hearing that mentality exists in that space. And I know it does, but you know, as many contractors I talk to, it's very few and far between, and you like finding guys like you for sure. So you guys have grown, and it sounds like, you know, over the last 5-6 years, you've kind of taken those steps. Where are you guys at now? What kind of work are you guys doing? What do you see you guys specializing in, and what kind of work you guys are doing?
So we do predominantly commercial work. So retail, restaurants, commercial spaces. You know, our projects range from food halls to, you know, we're doing some work at a university in Azusa that is about 40,000 square feet, offices, kind of mixed use. We're doing a renovation on a commercial strip center. So we used to do predominantly TIs, but like, as we build the company and as, you know, our capabilities expand and our value becomes bigger, we have to then find projects that match that level of service as well, so that it's affordable, you know, where we do RFIs and, you know, value engineering and track our projects and have, you know, higher insurance and all that sort of stuff. We provide more value than maybe what someone needs to do, like a bathroom remodel at their house, right? So we don't really go into that. We have a little bit more of a higher service. So mostly it's all commercial work, you know, things that you would see if you went to a strip center and went to lunch, you know, that's the type of stuff that we're doing. If you're in a professional office space, that's the type of stuff we do.
Yeah. And I like what you said there too about understanding your value, right? I mean, I think that that's a lot of people don't kind of in this industry don't maybe put that together, right? Because there are guys out there that will take almost any job, not realizing that maybe the level that they're at and the things that they do on a job maybe makes them unprofitable on a job like that, or prices them out, and now they're wasting time, doing bids on these jobs where they need to be here to be profitable, but maybe that's higher than it needs to be. So just kind of understanding where you fit in that class, and so that you can also be profitable and also win work as well.
Yeah.
Is I think important.
Yeah. You can't be everything to everyone. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Your expertise, how much, value you want to provide, the level of like oversight you have on the project, the quality materials, all that stuff comes into play. Right. And so, qualifying your clients prior to actually spending a lot of time on them is key. But, having a niche and understanding the market you're in will save you a lot of heartache and headache, because it's normally you getting into a project that's not the right fit that is the biggest struggle for any contractor.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. Unforeseen hurdles and costs that build up for sure.
well, clients have, different expectations than what you want to provide. Yeah. So it's, you can overreach, and you can definitely go too small on stuff as well.
Yeah. So how did you get into the commercial space that you guys are in? I mean, I know that it's not as competitive as, obviously like the small kitchen remodels and home rebuilding and all that kind of thing, but to be kind of a leader in that space, and to be thought of when somebody's looking for work like that takes some relationships and some of those kind of things. So where did that process begin, and how did that develop for you?
Yeah. I mean, our business is, for like 2 of the 5 years, I didn't even have a website up, right? Like, that's how important marketing is for us. It's kind of funny that that's the case, but a lot of our stuff is all word of mouth and referrals. So we're getting referred from client to client, from business owner, or architects, that just want to work with a quality contractor that's, going to be on their team and help build out a project with, with a client's best interest in mind. Right. And so our business has always been referral based, but, I got into commercial because my dad did it. He was doing drywall and framing. And then, while I was in high school, he became a superintendent at a general contracting company, and then eventually went out on his own as just a small mom and pop contractor doing one store after another. And when I called him up senior year of college and said, hey, this college stuff isn't for me, I'm ready to come to work for you. That's what I did. I came home from Pullman back to Seattle at the time, and started building Subway stores and some other small restaurants and things that he had going on. And, I've loved it since then. I was able to dig ditches, pour concrete, frame, drywall, paint, anything you can see inside a space, I did. So it helped me get a very good understanding of how, the position I'm in. I was able to do the field, and then I had some construction management experience, and then I spent a lot of time doing business development, estimating, and learning, that side of things. So I was able to take the two sides together pretty well. And I just kind of ran with it, man.
Yeah. Do you guys still perform a lot of the work, or do you more of a management aspect, or how do you guys perform?
Yeah. So right now, Pinhero Construction's more of a construction manager. So one of my personal mottos is to build something that's scalable and sustainable. And those two words came to me after I had to close down my first business, because what I did was not scalable and was not sustainable, right? We did most of the work in house. I was paying myself too much, spending money left and right on things I didn't need. And neither of those were like scenarios for us to continue in business for a long time. Like if the downturn didn't happen, we'd probably still be at some sort of smaller size business then. But going through that exercise, and having to close down and then rethinking like a strategy, when I started Pinhero Construction, we basically leveraged subcontractors. And so we basically share and spread the wealth, with a whole group of people. So when I have to go get a new project or a new client that might have multiple projects, we're able to scale and take those on pretty quickly because we only need a really small amount of extra employees to do that. So for me to go do 5 more projects a year, it really only takes one superintendent to do that. And we leverage our relationships with subcontractors. And, internally, what we've done is we've developed sort of systems in place that help the subcontractors be able to do the projects that we do. So, we have lien waivers and releases that are all DocuSigns. We have pay applications that are all done through our system for them, so they just have to sign the document every month, and then we do ACH transfers for them. So there's a ton of stuff that we've kind of developed as a company, not only to provide value to the clients, but also to the subcontractors. And so now we just have to go hire subcontractors to do all these projects. So we can now take the same size staff that we have as Pinhero and be able to do 8 to 10 projects at a time versus having to have, 50 employees to do a few projects and not be able to expand as easily. Right. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. And I think there's definitely two ways to do that. Right. And I think they can both be successful if you do them correctly. Right. The one aspect obviously is what you're doing. Right. And then, the flip side of that is, well, you can't control the labor, so you can't control the quality of labor. And it sounds like you guys have done some things to kind of help that process, right? By taking some of those things off the subcontractor's plate so they can focus on the quality work. And I'd have to imagine that your management oversight on the job is probably pretty tight. So you guys are keeping control from a quality standpoint that way. Can maybe kind of speak to the relationship a little bit, or how that vetting process goes with a subcontractor, because ultimately they're representing you, right? And that's what some people would say to hiring subcontractors is, I can't control them. I can't control the work that they're doing.
Yeah, it's I'm not gonna lie, that's certainly a sentiment that I've thought about over time, right? But I don't know if it's necessarily any harder to manage a subcontractor in quality work than it is to manage employees in the quality of work.
100%.
And traditionally, if you can hire a smaller contractor, you're actually getting someone who's very highly qualified to do the work, because that's traditionally what happens in construction. Is a tradesman that's really good ends up owning his own business. And then the difference really is becoming that really good tradesman that has a business to actually becoming a business owner. And that's, one thing that I've succeeded at, and one thing that I help coach contractors through is going from being that highly paid tradesman that's just sort of stuck in a high paid role in a company versus actually now building a company that could sustain without them. Right. But, I think what it comes down to is mentality, right? So if you think it's hard to manage subcontractors, or if you think it's easier to control quality with employees, you're going to get that result. If it's just however you feel, right? We've sacrificed some margin to be able to spread that out with subcontractors, but we're going to be able to grow our business and take on more work, right? And so, I would challenge anyone, that's building their company, if they want to, have things a little bit, well, let me just say this, like, having thoughts that don't serve you, is not going to move you forward at all. Right. So, it's the same thing, like, people saying, hey, there's no employees out there that are worth hiring right now. Well, there's a lot of people worth hiring, and there's a lot of people that are out there working. So why can't they come work for you? Right. And so, I think some of those things are just sort of limiting beliefs, but, going back to like qualifying,
self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Right. So if you just believe it's, harder to grow with subs, then you're going to have to do it with employees. But when you have your employees and you're trying to do general construction, so that might be part of the difference, right? As a general contractor, we have like 16 trades that are going to be doing work on a site. And if I don't sub a lot of those out, I have to go find people who are good at all those trades, or I have to have enough work to have someone do nothing but drywall on all those projects. And so I've found that it's less common nowadays to have people maybe that are traditionally jack of all trades, you know, versus sort of people who have specialized and just been trained in one trade.
Well, that's the flip side of it too, right? By being a company that is utilizing subcontractors at that level, you don't have to worry about, feeding 50 families, right? Because ultimately, I mean, when you employ somebody, that's your responsibility, is to keep them busy, make sure they get a paycheck every week, and that they can, have something to take home to their families. So that's something that, is taken off your plate and easier to manage. So that, that's why I was going back to saying, you can be successful at both if depending on what your mentality is, like you said, what your philosophy is.
Well, one thing that we've done recently is we have developed like an in-house staff that does, a particular trade, because that trade, there was enough of it to do, but that's not, that wasn't, for any other particular reason for some convenience and to capture some more margin as a contractor. But certainly the success we've had is because we've been able to scale and take on projects, and the more projects we're able to take on, the more referrals we get, the more projects. And so it's like this compounding curve. And if we can keep up with that by scaling, only having to scale a smaller part, by adding one or two employees versus, like on our projects, it would take 6 to 10 employees or your carpenters to do the work that we do in house. So that's a lot of projects you'd have to do to keep those guys busy, without sort of leveraging subcontractors.
Yeah. Well, and the overlapping too, right? Because it would take 6 to do one, but if you're trying to do 8 or 10 at a time, then you need 6 times 8 or 10. You know what I mean? And that makes it even less scalable for sure.
Yeah, there's some.
So going back to the marketing piece, you mentioned that for the first couple of years you didn't have a website at all, and I think you're probably in the same boat, or I think a lot of contractors believe that, the best business comes from word of mouth, and maybe they don't need some of those things. But I'd be willing to bet that, especially in 2021 and going into 2022, even if you are referred and a lot of business does come by word of mouth, that one of the first things that those people are doing when they hear about you from somebody else is, checking your website, Google searching, and seeing what else is out there before they give you a call. Do you think that that's is that the mentality you guys have too, or is that the philosophy you understand?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. So you need to build a resume. So on the commercial side of things, you're predominantly going to get business from, business development sales, like going out and reaching out to people. You're also going to get it through referrals and building relationships with other vendors, right? There's not as many people that are searching for restaurant contractors online as there are for bathroom remodels, right? And it's just not predominantly how you find maybe a contractor in the commercial space. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't downplaying the value of it. I was just pointing out that, as a contractor, we were still able to be successful without having that in place for a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I don't think you're downplaying at all. I think that it's extremely important. And if you do a little research on you guys, I mean, you're out there all over the place, right? And that's the mentality, right? I think a lot of the guys in especially in the commercial space, think, well, that's not where my business is coming from, right? Like you said, the bathroom remodel guy that does, all the homes in the neighborhood. Sure, those people are finding him on Yelp, and they're looking on Instagram, and that's how they're literally contacting him and reaching out to that guy. But yeah, I mean, I doubt a property manager or a business or a property developer is Google searching you and then messaging you on Instagram to come bid a job for him or something, right? But at the end of the day, like you said, it's building a resume, an online resume, basically. Yeah, because when he does hear about you, he's going to look for you first.
Yeah, our marketing strategy with Pinhero now over the last 2 years, once I kind of got my act together, was definitely to have a resume in place. So if they looked us up after they heard about us, after they got a referral, that what they found legitimized what the referral said, right? Exactly. So on the commercial side of things, that's super important. And for a while I didn't do it. I was just, just like any other business owner that, I was doing well, so I wasn't too worried about it. Right. But
Right.
there's a certain point where that does you do max out on your growth for whatever reason. Word of mouth referrals are going to be the easiest projects to land, and sell in the future. But if you want true growth, especially if you're, in the home improvement business, it's going to require a lot of marketing and advertising. And that's what you're seeing from these larger companies that are out there. That's what they're doing. They're putting a large portion of their budget towards that. The margins are a little bit different. They could absorb that, but it's key to grow as a business, to continue marketing. One of the key things that I've been recommending people do is like how-to videos. So I think those are huge right now on YouTube. It's interesting because contractors are on Instagram, and a lot of them follow us, and I follow some other, contractors, and, we're in the industry, and I'm part of Top Contractor School. And so we see a lot of those guys, but, contractors are following each other, but that doesn't result in more business, right? Sometimes there's some referrals there, but, contractors will post things that they think are cool. They think tools are cool. They think their truck's cool. They think the wrap on their new truck is cool, but none of that stuff is what clients care about, right? Those are just things that other contractors like, and then they get some, so I would, recommend that the contractors, that are listening are going out and thinking about what their customer wants, right? Like, who is their real customer? Is it the man of the house? Does he really care about your tools or your truck? Or is it the woman who wants to make sure that, the people who are coming in their, her house are safe, are, clean,
reputable,
those sort of things. Right. And so, marketing's huge. Understanding your clients, your target market, and providing them what they're looking for. So, we've stepped it up big time. I'm working on some training videos, some how-tos, some stuff just in the commercial space, and seeing how that's going to go. But, I need to be more active as well, getting out there on LinkedIn and stuff like that.
Yeah. Are these things that these ideas and these, kind of processes that you're looking at getting into, are they things that you guys have come up with on your own, or is there somebody you're working with from an outside standpoint that's kind of helping you guys with those things?
So to find someone who's going to help direct, provide you those ideas are traditionally going to be more expensive of a service because they're at a higher level, right? So what we've started out doing, because we have a lot smaller marketing budget than most companies being in commercial space, we've developed our own, I guess you can say content, right? And so we put it on a marketing calendar, and that marketing calendar has content that we're going to produce based on things that our customers have asked us about, and also what I think our customers would be interested about, right? They don't care, the things that we do as a business, how many employees we have, what brand of trucks we have, where our office is at. They don't care about any of that stuff. They want to know, like, how to declog a drain, or, why is that outlet not working? If it's
how you're going to solve their problem.
Yeah. How you're going to solve their problem. So we're going to do some how-tos on that. I get a lot of questions about like LOIs and leasing spaces, and there's a disconnect because you have real estate agents who just want to go help lease spaces. And then you have a client that needs certain requirements of the space. And so we're able to help, not negotiate, but we help provide insights of how to determine what size electrical we need, what size water we need for a space, just things like that, that would help a business owner go and lease a space. So those are the types of things that we're looking at providing as a company, just with our experience. It really has nothing to do with how long we've been in business, how much money we make, or any of that sort of stuff.
No, and I think that's smart, right? I mean, you're kind of marketing yourself as kind of full service, right? Like you're not just the guys coming out there building it per spec, reading off the sheet and doing what they say. Like you've got insight, and you've got experience, and you can kind of help round out the entire project.
Yeah. I mean, like, just for example, like someone like you can get on and just talk about different types of insurances, little posts online, and those are going to help people out because, part of part of like being able to grow as a person or as a company is knowing that you don't know everything, and that you need to be looking for people who are to enlighten you. And you know, a lot of people might not know what to ask you as, you know, for insurance. They just think that they need the bare minimum insurance. And so if you are out there coaching them through what to provide or how the process works, those are all things that I think are great pieces to market and to provide content about,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the future look like for you guys? Where do you see yourself headed? I mean, it seems like you guys have done pretty good growth in the last 5 or 6 years. Is there, and I know that you're not the guy that's going to sit around and be comfortable from this conversation that we've had, but what does the future look like for you guys?
So I put in place a plan 2 years ago. We adopted a contractor operating system through TCS, one of the coaching programs I'm through, I'm a member of. We are operating our company, and part of that is to have a vision for the company. And I think that is something that helps the company become established and spread through, you know, to gives purpose to everyone who's in the company. So we have a goal to get to $100 million in revenue a year for our company. And that kind of sounds audacious to just say it out loud, but really what that $100 million means for us is that we're going to have created a sustainable and scalable company if we can get there. Right. And so we're going to have employees who are able to have opportunity to grow within a company. We're going to have employees be able to purchase houses. We're going to have employees be able to, you know, have insurance. We're going to be able to, you know, provide trainings to people who wouldn't have it otherwise. We're going to be able to, you know, be part of building a lot of other, like our clients' businesses and all the communities that they're going to do. We're going to be able to give back to the community. So the more successful we are, the more we can do with that. Right. So, you know, I almost feel it's a burden that we have to take on and carry to become as successful as we can become so that we, you know, can give back and be a force for good.
I love that mentality. Yeah, that's awesome. Kind of creating that legacy too, right? The sustainable, or that legacy that is sustainable, for the future. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what that looks like in 8 years, but our 10-year plan is to get to 100 million. You know, one of my goals is possibly trying to become like an employee-owned company. I don't know if that's feasible or not. We'll see how it gets there, but I definitely want to have a lot of my key players, you know, involved in that process. You know, have them part of building it. You know, I don't think that everyone in the construction industry has to become a contractor or an owner of a company, right? I think there's a lot of benefits in being in another company or on a team if that owner can provide, you know, a situation where a lot of people can prosper. You know, the saying goes like, you know, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go together. And after, you know, when I was in my 20s, I tried to build it myself. And so, you know, to be honest with you, I'm not building much here at all. You know, this is my team that's doing it all. I'm just sort of orchestrating it and guiding us down the path, right? I'm taking the first step and telling everyone else, let's go. So, you know, if you can adopt that mentality, understand the importance of your employees, you know, if you're willing to, you know, get out there and build your team of advisors, you know, to tell you the truth, you know, be hard on you, you know, those sort of things.
Which takes a little bit of putting your ego in your pocket and
Well, yeah, I mean, like, what's the purpose of just having a business? Just to make more money? Like, that's at the end of the day, if you're chasing money, you're not going to get anywhere. You know, if you're chasing
a selfish mentality, right?
If you're chasing you know, if you're chasing, you know, a purpose, you know, your burn, you know, some sort of mission, then you can get people to rally behind that. You know, and if you have a vision that's large enough for everyone else's visions to fit within, then, you know, you've created a pretty good scenario for everyone to grow.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So give people let them know where to find you. How do people get a hold of you? How do they look you up? How do they find what you guys are doing next?
Yeah, right on. So personally, everything's just at Sunny Pinhero. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. They can find me at Pinhero Construction as well. That's our commercial contracting company. And then, you know, if anyone's looking to become a better contractor and get some content there, I'm also part of the Top Contractor School. So that's at topcontractorschool.com. And then also, you know, Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. But I appreciate it, man.
Well, that's usually where I end it, but I kind of want to hear a little bit about that Top Contractor School. Are you allowed to talk about that at all? Or is that something you guys? Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't heard of that. Is it who came up with that? What do you guys do there?
Yeah, so my partner Brian Hess founded and he's the CEO of Top Contractor School. He started about 3 years ago. He owns a paving company that does stuff nationally, and so he had subcontractors that he was trying to kind of coach up and build a network of. So he created a community of contractors, and it originally started out as like paving and concrete. And then last year, you know, my interest has always been to eventually get into coaching and helping out other contractors, you know, based on the experience. And unfortunately, I have a lot of experience, you know, things that I've learned from, you know, and I want people to get there faster and get there smoother than, you know, all the steps that I had to go through. So what Top Contractor School is, it's a community of contractors. There's, we have two levels of it. One is just a baseline community where you have access to trainings, to webinars. You get access to a private Facebook group where people are asking questions, you know, within the construction industry. It's basically surrounding yourself with other contractors who want to grow. And, you know, the industry could be very, very lonely, especially if you're at the top. I mean, you might have a couple of the contractor buddies, but mostly what you're doing with those contractor buddies is like going out to like Havasu, or you're going out to the desert with them. Right. You know, this is a community of contractors that are trying to learn how to be better business owners and grow. And then we have a second level called the Inner Circle, where we have private groups of 10 to 15 members that there's a Top Contractor School coach that leads that group, and they meet monthly, and we have a speaker that comes in and speaks. We do updates, you know, how everyone's doing with health, business, finance, and personal. And then we also do issue processing. So let's say that you're working on an issue with an employee, or you have a problem with a client, like you can present that to the group, and then we share experiences through that to help you through that. So it's basically a contractor peer advisory group. That's what I'm saying that helped me. The difference between the first go around and the second go around is I'm going out purposely trying to find other people to learn from and have people in my corner that I can lean on, and I can also help them. And like, that's a huge relationship. And so the Top Contractor School just basically helps us have a coordinated or organized way of doing it, because it's difficult going out in there just, you know, hey, let's meet, you know, let's have 10 contractors meet for coffee. Like, it's the likelihood of that happening is going to be minimal. But if you kind of join Top Contractor School, and I didn't mean to pitch it, I just, you know, it's great. Huge. I mean, it's a huge opportunity for contractors to get out there, that aren't exposed to, you know, personal development, you know, business growth, things like that. You know, a lot of us in the construction industry, we're tradesmen, we're really good at it, and then we owned a business. You know, and then we're kind of stuck in that business, you know, so,
well, it's kind of like joining like an association group, right? But I mean, those are obviously pretty specific around, you know, the trade, and a lot of them too. And I don't know what you guys do, but they bring in a lot of outside people, right? And it's really more about the trade than it is, you know, developing your business specifically and being there to assist in, like you said, some of those situations. So no, I think it's awesome. How often are you guys doing anything like meetups or like actually in person, or is a lot of it online right now, obviously because of what's going on? Or
so the program's nationwide right now, so everything that we do is an online group, and then we get together 2 times a year as a group. We actually have an event coming up in January, which is going to be pretty cool. That one has some speakers in the industry coming in, high performance speakers. We'll have some coaches there. I think the difference between maybe industry specific is that like a lot of the stuff we talk about is not about construction. It's not about tools. It's not about hammers. It's not about like, where to buy material. It's not about that stuff. It's about how to become a better leader, how to become a better business person. And it's just a great place to talk. And the conversations we have are so high level that it's, nothing that you're going to get just, randomly throughout the week or the month. And you can, the key is to be vulnerable about having issues, because even if that goes with any sort of conversation. If you have contractors or other business owners that you are associated with or friends with, reach out to them, get vulnerable, see what if you have something that you need to work on, because even if they don't know, they can just bounce ideas off of each other. Right. And so I think that's the key to it is actually taking that step. We've just done it in sort of a coordinated way to have it sort of organized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I'll definitely be taking a look at that for sure.
Well, I'd love to have you on to do some trainings about insurance.
Yeah. If you need anything, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, for sure. So we're building out, we're pushing a little bit more. We want to continue building the community. So we have some cool stuff in place for this next year. But we need people like you to be involved with helping coach on insurance and, being a service provider as well. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, anything I can do, man. I'm happy to help.
I appreciate it, brother.
Well, Sunny, it's been awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time with me.
Thank you, dude.
And anything you need, make sure you reach out, and we'll be following along, and hopefully they'll just celebrate with you when you hit that $100 million mark for sure.
Sweet, let's do it. Thanks, Mike.
All right, brother. Have a good one. Stay safe.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you had a good time, be sure to hit that subscribe button to get all the latest episodes. And if you had a really good time, leave a review to let us know what you thought. Until then, go gather some crazy stories on your job sites, and we'll see you next time on So, You Want to Be a Contractor.